Hi everyone, so my first smartphone ever was the iPhone 3GS. Now it did lack a lot of features at that time, but iOS was stable, it was smooth and reliable, and you just knew that your phone wouldn't freeze on you. Ever since, Apple has slowly added new features to iOS in a calculated manner, making sure to not overload the OS with bloatware, whereas Android has been getting more and more polished in the meantime. Now I know I've told you that I've been an iOS user and that's true, but the fact is throughout the years I've helped plenty of people with their Android phones and I've even developed a few simple Android apps. In 2013 I had the Nexus 7 second generation tablet, which was honestly amazing for the time, and I think I kept it up until 2016. This video will highlight certain things which will bug you when moving over from iOS to Android. Please keep in mind that this is not bashing on Android. I intend on having both iOS and Android phones from now on concurrently, just to be able to get the best of both worlds and be able to gain access to some Android exclusive apps which are really helpful for my hobby. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the 7 things that bug me about Android after coming from iOS. First thing, you just got your shiny new phone, you set it up, you let it update its operating system, and you want to use the installed default apps. Well, tough luck. All those bloaty copycat apps at Samsung or insert almost any other OEM name in search on your phone need to be updated separately, and this doesn't happen over the Play Store as you would expect. The whole point of these apps, such as Samsung's web browser or Bixby, is to convince you to switch over to these apps and not use Chrome or any other Google alternative. But if you can't use these apps from the get-go without updating them first, they already lost me. I was already pretty sure that Samsung's web browser is inferior to Chrome, but if there's an extra step I need to take to use it at first, I might as well just give up before trying. Second thing is most relevant in the US where the iPhone is more popular, but it's still important to those of us in Europe and the rest of the world who are using iMessage to carry most of our conversations. It's a bummer that on Android you pretty much have to download and use a third-party instant messaging app. It's so nice to be able to instant message to the default iOS messaging app and then carry over to SMS when you have no data, and especially because it's available on Mac, it's really seamless and you can continue texting from your computer. Now don't get me wrong, I still have WhatsApp on my iPhone, but the fact that most of my friends have iOS means that I can talk to them most of the time through iMessage on the iPhone. And if you're thinking about switching to Android, most people will see you as the green message bubble person. Third thing is, you won't have access to Apple Pay, and there's no way getting around it. Apple Pay is just available in more countries, and the user experience of Apple Pay is better to that of Google Pay. With Google Pay, you can change the card that you're going to pay with only from the app, and by default, you will always be able to pay as long as your phone is unlocked, which in my opinion is quite unsecure. Now the good thing with Android is the fact that there are alternatives to Google Pay if Google Pay is not available, but given the fact that most of those are developed by the banks themselves, the implementation is going to be clumsy at best. My bank has this, and the way they do it is through a secondary card. Alright, no problem, you might be thinking. The only issue is it breaks if the bank's app gets updated and you need to generate a new one before being able to pay, which as you can imagine is not a pleasant experience if it happens to you while you're waiting to pay at the counter. Fourth thing has to do with the way animations work on Android. See, on iOS, if you're opening up the multitasking switcher and while the animation is still going on, you decide that you want to go back to your home screen, you can do it. The interface is still responsive and you can do these things while the animation is still going on and nothing will look clunky. On Android, I have to wait for the animation to be done, and if I'm pressing the screen while the animation is going on, it's as if I didn't do anything. This might not seem like much, but it makes the iPhone seem that much more natural to use, and it's almost like there's no barrier between you and the phone because the phone is always there for you. Now I have to mention, this wasn't always the case on iOS either. I think they only started doing this since iOS 10 or maybe iOS 11. Before that, during the animations, the phone was just not responsive. I know you can disable animations on Android, but at that point you're giving up a nice visual effect just to fix something that should have been fixed already. Fifth thing has to do with the dual SIM functionality of your phone. So let's say that you want to use 2 SIMs to have coverage in more places. Well, iOS has a nice feature which allows for smart data switching between the 2 SIMs. This means that the phone automatically switches to using data from the secondary SIM when your primary SIM is losing signal or has unusable data. I'm sure this wasn't complicated to pull off, and it essentially cancels out dead spots as long as your secondary SIM has a signal. Unfortunately, Android doesn't have this, and if your data SIM loses its signal, you won't be getting notifications or have access to internet until you switch manually to data from the secondary SIM. I understand some people use dual SIMs just to have a voice-only SIM, but this is not the case for all of us, and I think having the option to toggle this on or off, as iOS has done it, is a really helpful feature. Sixth thing still has to do with dual SIM functionality, and that is because I find it ridiculously easy to call using the wrong SIM while dialing from the dialer app. As you can see, because you have call buttons for both SIMs so close to each other, it's quite easy to press the wrong one if you're not paying attention to it especially, or if you're walking while you're trying to dial a number. The whole point of using a default voice SIM is to actually make it count for something, just like it does on iOS. The call button on iOS already calls using the primary voice SIM that you've chosen, and if you want to call from the secondary SIM, you can always switch the SIM you're calling from through the drop-down menu at the top of the screen. This way, there's never going to be an accidental call from the wrong SIM. Now, I am going to end this note on saying that I'm sure some OEMs and some alternative apps have fixed this, but from what I've seen, most Android manufacturers use this same sort of dialer style. Seventh thing is a gripe that most people have with Android, and that is the situation with the updates and the fragmentation. Now, Samsung's update policy has gotten better, and the Galaxy S10 Lite that I have should get updates up to Android 13. You still can't compare this to the situation on iOS. This iPhone 6s is running iOS 14, the latest iOS, and there's no slowdowns or issues. This phone came out in 2015 and it's still being updated, and it will get all releases of iOS 14, meaning that it will get updates at least until 2021. I say at least because Apple has started pushing updates to older devices which don't support the latest version of iOS anymore, just to fix security exploits. The iPhone 5s, a 7-year-old phone, got a security update just 3 days ago on November 5th, 2020, and the iPhone 4s, which is a phone that came out in 2011, so a 9-year-old phone, just got its last security update in July 2019. If Android updates were your only concern, perhaps this wouldn't be that big of an issue. But the fact is, most Android OEMs like to stick their own UI software on top of Android, so you have to make sure that's also updated. Oh, and forget about day one updates on Android. That's just not a thing unless you're using a Pixel. Don't get me wrong, apart from the things that I've mentioned, there's a lot of things that I've always liked about Android, and Android has gotten better over time. It's gotten more stable, more reliable, and it just feels all around more polished. For example, all the network monitoring apps that I'm using to find information about the cell networks I'm connecting to are Android exclusives. It's also nice that there's a huge variety of Android phones out there. While I do consider the iPhone to be great at most things people consider important, with a variety of phones in the Android world, there's always going to be a phone that does at least something better or different. iOS has a lot of features that have been inspired from Android, and I'm sure neither iOS nor Android would be this advanced if the other one didn't exist. So I'm glad the competition is still here. Anyways, if you guys like this video, make sure to click the like button, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any future videos, and I'll catch up with you in the next video, in which we are going to unbox the iPhone 12 Pro Max. But yes, just to wrap things up, if you've been watching my videos lately and you've watched my desk setup tour, my everyday carry video, I am now carrying 3 phones. And that would be the iPhone 6s over here, then the iPhone 11 Pro Max, which is soon to be replaced by the iPhone 12 Pro Max, so make sure to stay tuned for videos of that phone. And now the Galaxy S10 Lite. There might still be place in my pocket for a 4th phone, so we'll see.